Okay, Nia, thank you so much for joining me to talk about your success story through the Praxis program. I know you have a really awesome story because you joined the program when you were a bit younger, and now you have a really awesome apprenticeship opportunity that you're working through currently, and you're leading your way up to graduation. So could you give us like the really quick overview of what your Praxis story is and where you are today?
Yeah, definitely. So my praxis stories, we call it. I have been homeschooled for the majority of my life, and I feel like praxis is very well known in the homeschool community. And so I was graduating high school. I took a semester in community college. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, or like college wasn't really the best fit for me. And so my mom was like, hey, there's this thing called Praxis. Like, I've seen it around. It looks kind of sketchy, maybe, like, could be a little bit too good to be true, but it seems really interesting. Like, you should check it out. And so I checked it out and I was like, this is it. Like, this is what I want to do. This is perfect. Like, might be too good to be true, but if it is what it says it is, like, this will be fantastic. And so I applied. I somehow got in. My like 16-year-old self with no experience and like never done an interview before somehow got in. Still have no idea how that happened. And then I started the program in September of 2019, and then I got placed at a digital marketing agency called UpGrow in March of 2020, and then that's where I'm at now.
Amazing, amazing. That is such a good synopsis of your story. So I know that you were a dancer before you joined Praxis.
Yes,
So I'm
ma'am.
like really interested in hearing how from being a dancer and then coming across Praxis, how you felt like that aligned with your higher career goals and just dreams in general.
Yeah, so I did dance. I was dancing pre-professionally at the Kansas City Ballet. I was in their daytime program, so I was there like all day, every day, like 12-hour days, just like grinding it out in the studio, trying to get better. And then I sort of had this realization in the winter of like 2018, 2019, that kind of area, where I was like, I'm not a fan of like the environment anymore. And like there was a lot of like social pressures and eating disorders and things like that that I had sort of woken up to during that time, during like the winter break section there. And I was like, well, I'm not, like, I have to stay for the end of the semester and I'm not going to pursue it full time after that. I just had decided that then and there. And I was like, what else am I passionate about, or what else do I like? And I was like, I mean, I've been editing pictures since I was like 10. Like, I love like photography. I love like campaigns and like ads and things like that. Like, I love just looking at everything, and like customer service and just all of that stuff that would lead down like the business or the praxis pathway. And so when I found it, I was like, I'm not like entirely sure what direction I want to go in, but it would be a fantastic stepping stone in like a new direction. It would be a really good pathway to lead me on and to sort of guide me through it, because I had like no idea what I was doing or where I wanted to go or like what I wanted to be. But and also like for me personally, part of my thought process was like, it's a year-long program. Like if I fail, if it sucks, like I'll still learn from it and like I'll still grow, and it's just a year. It's not like I'm signing up for like a 4-year college degree or anything like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So then did you kind of like trial community college classes before you applied for Praxis?
Yeah, kind of. I graduated that like same winter from high school, so like the winter of 2018, and then the spring of 2019 I took community college classes like while I was still dancing and stuff, and so that's when I applied and got accepted into Praxis.
Okay. If you want to speak a little bit about your like minimal college experience, what was it that kind of like didn't hit the mark for you there, that you were just like, yeah, this isn't the direction I want to take?
For me personally, like everyone was just so unmotivated. Like people were cheating like left and right. And I was like, what is this? Like I am like the goody two shoes, like perfectionist, like little student. And so I was like, you're cheating like in front of the teacher. Like, how can you do that? And yeah, it just like blew my mind that people would be so careless in a sense about what they were learning, and like they wouldn't show up to class for like 2 months in a row and then like ask me for notes, and they'd be like, excuse me, like I'm the one that's like 4 years younger than you, like why am I giving you notes? Yeah. And it was just like the whole environment of it was not something that I could ever see myself thriving in necessarily. And so I was like, this is definitely not for me. And I'm glad I figured that out so young, because I could see myself following like the quote unquote like regular or what's expected of me path of like going to college just because it was expected. If I hadn't had that experience and like had that realization of it not for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I can kind of see a pattern that environment is super important for you, like making sure you're in a healthy environment and one that's inspiring and is going to help motivate you and shape you into the person you want to be. When you were looking at Praxis, did you kind of have an idea of what your future, quote unquote, could look like going through the program? Or were you more so like, I'm just going to try it. I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I just feel like this is the right move?
It was a bit of both, honestly. Like I mentioned earlier before, like I was always sort of a fan of marketing, but I didn't know that it was really marketing that I was a fan of, if that makes sense. Like all of the stuff that I enjoyed was in that realm, but I didn't understand that that was like what marketing was for the longest time. And so going into Praxis and like looking at the different like success stories and things like that, and seeing like what marketing actually is and then what all the different roles were, it was very like eye-opening, being like, hey, like this is something that I enjoy and it's like an actual job, like I could get paid for this, that's pretty cool. But also just throughout the program, like learning more about the different roles, I was definitely more open to things that I was not expecting to be open to. Like I was interested in sales and I was like, I am an introvert and like I hate making phone calls. Why am I interested in sales? Like what is going on? And so it was just it was really interesting to like see all the different roles and know that there were so many different opportunities out there that I could take advantage of.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I'm also an introvert, so I can relate to being surprised to sales seeming appealing. Cool. Were there other factors and like when you imagined your ideal life, like in terms of maybe lifestyle or just or even like team culture, location, things like that, where you were like, okay, this is what I want for myself, and now I kind of need Praxis to figure out how to bridge the gap to get there?
Sort of, yeah. So I lived in Kansas, and I personally did not like Kansas very much. I just didn't really find a community there that I did really well in. Like I didn't really ever find like the closest of friends. And so I really wanted to just like get out and explore. My family has moved a lot, and so moving was something that I am like all too comfortable with. And so I saw the program and it was like, hey, you moved for your apprenticeship. And I'm sure so many people saw that and were terrified, but I saw that and I was like, sweet, it can get me out of Kansas. Like, this is great. Like, this is a win-win-win situation here. And so, yeah, that was definitely something that was very appealing, which probably is not something you hear very often.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, so I mean, especially with everything going on right now, like remote opportunities are abundant, but moving definitely is a part of the growth process. What was kind of your like overall understanding of Praxis when you were in the researching application phase versus what your understanding of it is now that you are placed and are in your apprenticeship?
For me, I feel like I got a pretty decent grasp of what everything was. I reached out to a lot of different like alums and things like that on different social media platforms and was like, hey, like, is this thing legit? Like, what is this? Like, what is up? And so I think I got a pretty good grasp of the program and the community and everything surrounding it. But now just like actually living in it, I can guarantee you that it is not too good to be true. Like, if anything, it is better than what it seems like. And yeah, I'm very, very happy with my decision to join Praxis.
That's awesome. What was your boot camp experience like? What are some of the top things you learned there, and things that you feel like you'll have for the rest of your life?
One of like the biggest things that I learned was, well, I guess there were two. One of them would be since I danced, I could take that performance aspect of dancing and performing and everything, and I could bring it to different videos I was doing, different pitches, value props, all of that jazz, because like I put so much time and effort into dance. Like it would have been so sad if I just left that all in the dust and like I didn't gain anything from that. But it was really cool to see the skills and the talents and like the drive that I got from dance and how I could then bring it into my Praxis bootcamp experience. And then the other thing that I learned was that I really like writing. Like I, for the longest time, was very cautious about writing because I have that perfectionist mindset and I have that like I need it to be perfect. But through the 30-day writing challenge, I realized that it doesn't necessarily have to be perfect for the world to see it. And if anything, that it just shows that you're human and we're all human. And it's okay if I have a spelling mistake or like a misplaced comment, a blog post, because there's like 200 other out there now. So like it's all good. So yeah, those are probably like two things that I didn't expect to learn from the bootcamp, but I did learn.
Okay, that's cool. Was the boot camp what you expected? What were some more unexpected things that you came across?
I'm honestly not sure like what I expected from the boot camp. I feel like it's like constantly changing and morphing for whatever like time frame it is and like whatever people need at that moment. And so when I went through it, like there was the building a second brain, which I also loved. Like I had no idea that there were systems out there like that I could use, and I still use mine pretty much every day to this day. And just little things here and there that I was like, hey, like that's pretty cool. It's not what I was expecting to get out of this, but like that's a really good bonus, like fun little thing to be thrown in here and there. But yeah, I don't know if there are any other like super specific things that I can remember, at least as of now, that like stand out to me about the boot camp that I was surprised to learn.
All right. So the boot camp was, you didn't really know what to expect. What about with your placement process? Did you ever hit a point where you were like, okay, this is exactly the type of opportunity I want to launch my career in? Or were you more like open to what came through the gates?
Yeah, I was very open to pretty much whatever was out there. I had a really interesting placement experience. My parents were going through a divorce like during the boot camp, and my mom actually moved like right at the beginning of placement, and I decided to move out with her. And so I was like not emotionally ready to get placed the first month. And so I used the first month as like a stepping stone in a sense, where I put my all into learning how to research a company, learning how to build pitches like extremely efficiently, and learning how to email like properly and how to do everything that I would be doing, but just at like a smaller scale, but learning how to do it really, really well. And then when I got into month 2 of placement, which was February, I'm pretty sure, I was like full steam ahead. I was like, this is it. Like, this is like now or never. This is when I make it. And so there was definitely like some roadblocks when I was like, when it was January, because I was constantly being like, oh, these people are getting placed. Like, why am I not getting placed? And then I'd have to have like a wake up moment where I'd be like, Mia, you don't want to get placed right now. Like, I don't know why you're upset when you don't want to get placed. And so I was so open to anything. Like I applied for any and every job pretty much because I had gotten so efficient in that first month, with like how I built pitches, how I emailed, how I researched companies. So when I did eventually like actually start pitching companies, it went like way faster than I would have ever thought that it could have gone.
Yeah, definitely. Things move fast in placement when you like sit down and like really pay attention to it all. How would you describe the Praxis placement process to somebody who's not in the program?
Okay, so I would say that you enter it and you have like all of the time in the world, but also no time at all, because you're like stressed and you're terrified and you're like, I have to get a job. What is going on? Like, what the heck am I supposed to do? And you basically just build up all of the tech skills that you have been building up throughout the boot camp. You show proof of it. You don't just like say, hey, I can do this, believe me, because I'm a Praxis student. Like, people don't understand that. And so you show proof and you show that you can create value and you learn how to create pitches, how to create value props, how to do everything that would prove that even though you don't have a college degree, you are worthy and capable of doing the job. And then there's also like interview prep that you can do with different advisors. There's like weekly calls that you go on and discuss what you're doing. You learn more, like you're constantly learning. There's never a moment where you're not learning during Praxis. It's insane. And yeah, you just kind of have fun. I feel like there's a lot of community that happens during the placement section because like you're all in it together. There's like now or never, and then whenever someone gets a job, like this is the most exciting thing in the world. Like everyone is so thrilled whenever someone gets placed because there are so few people that get accepted that like everyone knows each other and everyone is so extremely supportive and always willing to help a hand and always willing to give feedback with whatever it is that you may be working on.
Yeah, it is. It is a really beautiful thing. And like that probably satisfies your environment / community.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Let's talk about your apprenticeship right now. So you got placed at a digital marketing agency in San Francisco. What was the role? Were you nervous? Were you excited?
Yeah, so my placement experience, like for this role specifically, was kind of funny. Thomas Knapp, he reached out to me. He was also a Praxis participant, and he was their apprentice. He actually got hired on full-time, like halfway through his apprentice, I'm pretty sure. And so he was like, hey, like we're looking for another apprentice. You seem like you'd be a great fit. Like you want to hop on a call? And then like an hour later, I was on like my first very unofficial interview where it was like me and him just chatting about the role and like my experience and stuff like that. And then about a week or maybe a few days later, I had an interview with the co-founder and then another person at the company. And they gave me a project to do where I was learning LinkedIn ads, and I had like I've never touched LinkedIn ads before. I was terrified, like I had no idea what I was doing. And then I presented that to the company and had another interview, and then I got the job. It was pretty exciting, not gonna lie. It was like my first presentation ever. My homeschooler and introvert self was dying inside, but I did it. And so when I first got hired, I'm pretty sure I was hired for like the PPC department. But then when I actually like showed up for the job, I started doing SEO, and then like COVID happened and like business kind of got slow. And so I started working more on like lead generation and different marketing for UpGrow, like the actual company, instead of like with clients, if that makes sense. And so I've been doing that a lot, just like working on our lead generation. And I feel like it's like finally starting to like actually pay off because I feel like there was a lot of like buildup and just like learning how to do everything before I could actually implement it all. And then I've also been doing like a bunch of SEO stuff on the side, just like helping out wherever they need, as well as with the PPC department. And then I also do a lot of our like website design, landing page design, things like that. Like whenever a client is like, hey, can you update like this page to add like this picture or like whatever it is that they may need, that's what they come to me for.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like a lot of fun and a really good mix of like different responsibilities and skills. Being at your apprenticeship for a good chunk of time now, do you have specific career goals? Like after trying out things and maybe figuring out what you like and don't like, do you see your career going in a specific direction at this point?
At this point, I feel like I still like there's so much that I still have to learn. And so I honestly would love to stay like where I'm at right now. I think they're talking about going fully remote, which is just like totally not related to business at all. But like my dream would be to get a van and renovate it to a tiny house and just like travel the country or the world in the tiny house and work remote. Like that would be so fantastic. Like I would love doing that. And so like if that can happen with where I'm at right now, like I'd be so happy. I'd be living my dream at 18. Like everyone wants to say that. And so like that is my, I guess you could say my goal. I know it is not necessarily like related to business or like what I'm doing with that. But yeah, I just want to like learn more and just progress with what I'm learning, because I have worked in so many different areas. I haven't necessarily gotten the chance to like do a deep dive in anything, or like fully not specialize, but like fully understand it from like A to Z. And so that's what I'll hopefully be working on for the next few months. And then yeah, I'll just see what happens from there.
I love that. Looking back at yourself from when you first started the program to where you are now, what's like the biggest difference you see in yourself?
Honestly, I see way more confidence, and also well, yeah, confidence like in who I am and also in my work. Before, I was constantly critiquing everything. It would take me like 2 weeks to write a single blog post that was like 200 words. Like it wasn't even impressive. It was like a little tiny thing. But now like I see that I have grown so much over the past year, like way more than I would have ever been able to grow in college or in like anything else, to be honest. Like I freaking moved by myself when I was like 17. Like you can't do that in other opportunities like you can with Praxis. And so that's like, that was, yeah, sometimes I'll look back and I'll be like, man, like I was still dancing right now. Like that's crazy. Like, yeah, just little things like that where it's like, it's only been a year, but it feels like it's been way longer than a year. But also it feels like it flew by, and it's just one of those like crazy, fantastic situations where you're like, wow, this is pretty fun. Like this is really great.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so to wrap things up, I want you to give advice to a few theoretical people.
Okay.
So if you knew somebody who maybe came from the dance community and possibly had a little bit of interest in the business world, what advice would you give them for kind of forging their path forward?
I would say just consume as much content as you can. There is an insane amount of content out there. There is so many different ways to learn. There's books, YouTube videos, podcasts. There's so much free information out there that like past generations had absolutely no access to, but we have so much access to, and there's an abundance of information that's just at the tips of your fingertips. And so if you want to learn something, go out and learn it. If you are curious about something, go explore that. Don't hold yourself back with setting expectations on what you should be doing right now, or where you should be going, or what people are saying you should do, because those will just hold you back, and they won't let you pursue, they won't give you the freedom to pursue whatever it is that you actually want to pursue.
And would you give similar advice to somebody who was like you almost a year ago, you really didn't know what direction you wanted to take your career or life in, and you were just like, ah, where do I turn?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like if I like were to start the program like fresh from the beginning, I would definitely just consume more, just like constantly be learning, because even though I was learning so much in the program, I feel like I wasn't um surrounded by like the right influences like on social media or things like that, that would have helped me to progress even faster.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Awesome. Well, Mia, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing a bit of your story. I wish
Yeah,
you
of
the best
course.
in UpGrow and all of your future career ventures ahead.
Thank you.